To the outside world, Sukhjit Singh and his wife Ramandeep Kaur Mann were the perfect couples. She was a bright, glamorous, and hard-working mother of two. He was a rich, ambitious, and devoted family man. Theirs was not an arranged marriage, unlike most Indian marriages. They'd married for love and enjoyed the trappings of a middle-class life in a smart suburb of Derby. But as is nearly always the case, all that glitters is not gold, and beautiful Ramandeep had plenty of that. The balance of power in their marriage, say those who knew the couple, was not entirely even. Unbeknown to Sukhjit, the wife he doted on had begun a secret affair with his closest childhood friend. And together the lovers coldly devised a plot to poison and murder him for his $2 million life insurance and 100,000 pounds assets. Stay till the end to find out how she did it. Sukhjit was 3 years older than Ramandeep, whom he met when he was 20 and she just 17. When Sukhjit first came to the UK in around 2002, the couple fell madly in love and married 3 years later, in 2005. It was not an arranged marriage. Their families had nothing to do with the relationship, but they were delighted with them as a couple. Sukhjit worshipped the ground Ramandeep walked on. Initially, the couple ran a pizza outlet in Carshalton, Surrey, but they moved to Derby to raise their two sons, Arjun, who was born in 2007, and another boy who arrived 3 years later, in 2010. There's a big Sikh community in Derby, and it created new business opportunities for them. Property is cheaper there than in London. Sukhjit was a shrewd businessman, and so was Ramandeep. Sukhjit would analyze property prices and was very intelligent. He thought he could get more for his money in Derby than if they stayed in London. Thanks to Sukhjit's business acumen, the university-educated pair enjoyed a very comfortable lifestyle and were well respected in Littleover, a desirable semi-rural suburb on the outskirts of Derby, where they set about bringing up their boys. The couple worked hard at one stage. Ramandeep, who studied graphic design at Thames Valley University, managed a branch of Argos and took on a second job to provide for the family. Alongside his business ventures, Sukhjit also worked as a driver and was planning to set up a transport firm, which he named Arjun Transport after their firstborn in the months before he died. A devout Sikh, Sukhjit also became a regular every Sunday at Derby's Sri Guru Singh Sabha Temple and sometimes volunteered as a project manager at the National Sikh Museum in the city. Gurpal Singh, who worked with him at the museum, previously said that they were a lovely couple and there was no sign of any difficulties. They seemed very much in love. Other family and friends also described Ramandeep as placid and compassionate and said she enjoyed a nice and loving relationship with her husband. But behind closed doors, there was a growing imbalance in the couple's relationship. Sukh was quite protective but also laid back. He never said anything to Raman about rules or anything like that. She could do what she wanted, she wore what she wanted, and had a level of control over him. Sometimes eyebrows were raised in the Sikh community, but the way she did not always conform to tradition. Sukh treated her well and she had an expensive habit. She wore nice jewelry that he bought her and she liked people to compliment her on how she looked. She always dressed nicely and made sure she was never seen looking casual. She seemed like a very nice woman and a very good mother, and she knew Sukhjit was madly in love with her. In November 2015, the couple took their sons on holiday to visit Sukhjit's closest friend Gurpreet, who was living in Dubai. The two men had known each other since their school days, and Sukhjit affectionately referred to Gurpreet as his brother, even though they weren't related. Gurpreet, who was also a truck driver and worked in construction, joined the family on day trips during their stay and was pictured in selfies posted online with the couple and their young sons. But unbeknown to Sukhjit, Ramandeep and Gurpreet became more than friends and started an affair during the holiday, which they continued via WhatsApp on their return. They soon began plotting how to get the unsuspecting Sukhjit out of the picture. As much as it was a shock that Ramandeep had been cheating on Sukhjit, still if one of them was going to be unfaithful, it was more likely to be her. That was just the dynamic of the relationship. It is alleged the lovers decided they would lure Sukhjit to India, where they believed it would be easier to get away with murder. The following summer, in July 2016, Gurpreet tagged along with Ramandeep and Sukhjit on an extended break to visit Sukhjit's mother, Vanshjit Kaur. But this time Sukhjit noticed a strange chemistry between his wife and his friend, and on August 22nd he confronted her about it. 10 days later, Ramandeep, who stood to benefit from the $2 million life insurance policy she'd taken out in her husband's name, as well as inheriting his 2 houses, ground up some sleeping pills and added them to the family's curry dinner. With her family seemingly sleeping soundly, she enacted the lovers' murderous plan. Gurpreet Singh from Punjab, India, was Sukhjit's childhood friend and would regularly visit his home. According to the prosecution, Sukhjit, his wife, and their sons visited his native Basantapur village in Shahjahanpur in August 2016. While on holiday at her mother-in-law's house in Basantapur, a village in the state of Uttar Pradesh, northern India, Ramandeep laced her 34-year-old husband's favorite biryani curry with sedatives before letting her boyfriend, Gurpreet Singh, who tagged along on the trip, into the property. While Sukhjit slept, Ramandeep smothered him with a pillow before Gurpreet smashed his friend over the head with a hammer. Ramandeep then completed the job by slitting her husband's throat. Quite brutal. According to the police investigation, Gurpreet entered the house after Ramandeep opened the gate late in the night. After hitting him twice with the hammer, Gurpreet took out a knife from his pocket. Ramandeep took the knife from Gurpreet and slit his father's throat. The lovers planned to use Sukhjit's money to run away and start a new life, but the plot soon unraveled when police were called and immediately suspected that Ramandeep was involved. She was arrested and Gurpreet was then picked up as he tried to board a flight to Dubai, where he was based. Horrifically, Ramandeep's elder son, Arjun, then aged just 9, witnessed his father's murder. He hadn't felt hungry that night, and so hadn't eaten enough of the drugged meal to knock him out, as his mother had planned. Just after 10 p.m., the little boy was awoken by the sound of his father struggling as his mother attempted to smother him. What he saw will no doubt haunt him for the rest of his life. He later told police his dad was great, but his mom was bad, and he didn't want to see her face ever because she killed his dad in front of his eyes. She kept a pillow on his dad's face and asked Gurpreet to slit his throat. After waiting 7 years for the trial to get to court due to the protracted Indian justice system, Ramandeep and Gurpreet were finally convicted of Sukhjit's murder 7 years later after Arjun flew from the UK to give evidence against his mother in person. Speaking to Mail Online, Arjun said he would like to be there when her death happens. He said it doesn't fill him with fear. In fact, it would give him a lot of satisfaction and relief, and he looks forward to that day. He would like all his family to be there with him. He would like to see with his own eyes that justice for his father has been served. He said he's proud of what he's done because he's got justice for his father. He said he and his brother don't think of the woman as their mother anymore, that she's evil. He said they wanted nothing to do with her, and she stopped being a mother to them the moment she murdered their father. Man was held at Shahjahanpur District Jail in the North Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, where she's sharing a dormitory-style cell. Gurpreet, who was arrested as he boarded a flight to Dubai, confessed to the crime and was sentenced to life imprisonment. She is with dozens of female prisoners and sleeps on a dirty concrete floor. Man said from inside the dilapidated April 18, 2024 to Century Jail, which was built during the British Raj, that she is in a living hell. She said, "It's horrendous. It's like being in hell. Both the prison and the bigger situation that she found me in. It's the worst thing that has happened to me." She said she felt so alone. She said she made no friends there, and she just kept to herself. The food and the conditions were awful. She added that she suffered a miscarriage of justice. She said she didn't do anything wrong. "I was framed, and now she's rotting in jail." She said nobody was helping her. She was all alone there. "I can't begin to tell you how horrendous this whole thing is." She said, "I'm not good at all." She begged for someone to help her. Nobody from the British High Commission had gone to visit her since she'd been convicted. Her parents were there, but they went back to the UK. When Raman heard that she had been sentenced to death, she was in such shock that she didn't know what to say. She couldn't believe what was happening to her, but she wants people to know her story. There are no words to describe what a bad situation it was for her. She acted as a psychopathic victim. 2 female inmates of the jail and a woman constable were deployed to monitor Man, according to the Hindustan Times. In 2016, the Derby Telegraph reported a family friend telling how the family were valued members of the community and how Sukhjit Singh was involved with the Gurdwara, along with the National Sikh Museum. As if that wasn't dramatic enough, the case took a final shocking twist when the trial judge ruled that the murder had been so barbaric that Ramandeep should receive the death penalty. She faced being hanged for her crimes. District Judge Pankaj Kumar Srivastava said not only had Sukhjit, who was known as Sonu, lost his life, but the childhood of his 2 sons had been exterminated for the sake of an illicit relationship. As the death sentence was handed down, Ramandeep screamed that she was innocent and had been framed by her dead husband's relatives. Her lawyers immediately appealed the death sentence, and while most are now commuted to life imprisonment in India, she could still face the noose if the inevitable months, if not years, of legal hearings ultimately failed to overturn the judge's decision. The country's last execution took place in 2020, just 4 years ago, when 4 men were hanged for the gang rape and murder of a young woman. For now at least, Ramandeep's days will be spent under the watchful eye of a female constable, assigned to monitor her wretched existence in the overcrowded and rundown Shahjahanpur District Jail, where she is being held. Her current circumstances must feel a world away from the comfortable upbringing she enjoyed with her Sikh parents, businessman father Paul Mann, mother Amarjit, and 3 sisters, in their extended semi-detached home on a tree-lined street in Slough, Berkshire in the 1990s. Described as good, law-abiding citizens who will help anyone, the family refused to answer the door to reporters, but they have always protested Ramandeep's innocence. Sources in India said that the wealthy mans who have political contacts in the country had been confident it would never get to death. Just 7 months after Ramandeep's arrest, they managed to buy their second eldest child out of prison, almost unheard of for such a serious crime. which allowed her to live in relative comfort with family and friends in the country, rather than languish on remand for years in one of India's notoriously squalid jails. And by all accounts, the Manns were also convinced their money and connections would eventually help to bring Ramandeep home. A source said that they spent more than £100,000 on legal fees and managed to get Ramandeep bail. The Manns insisted Ramandeep was somehow set up by relatives of Sukhji, who they say had him killed when they discovered he was planning to sell land around his ancestral home. Mr. Mann wrote online in 2016 that Sonu went to sell the land which someone did not like. Raman is innocent and she has been framed. While no evidence was presented to the court to support such claims, Sukhjit indeed owned property and agricultural land in India. The village of Basanapur houses a Sikh community who have a reputation for being enterprising with their rural wealth. Certainly friends said that Sukhjit's family, while humble, were well-to-do and had a money background. In the end, it was Ramandeep who was found guilty of striking the fatal blow with the knife that Gurpreet had passed from his pocket. She left her husband of 11 years to bleed to death in his bed. The couple's elder son, Arjun, who now lives with his younger brother and paternal uncle, traveled to India from their home in London to testify against his mother in court last month. He insisted that he still remembers what he saw on that night, and that he especially came to India to ensure a speedy trial. He said he wants his father's killers to be punished by the law. Gurpreet was jailed for life and fined £3,000, but was spared the death sentence. Reacting to the verdict, Sukhjit's mother told reporters outside the court that she was thankful that her daughter-in-law had been sentenced to death. She said that she felt relieved. Her prayers were answered, and she got what she was expecting from the court. She was demanding capital punishment for Ramandeep so that no other mother's child dies like this. Ashok Khanna, lawyer for Sukhjit's family, added that Ramandeep man had not shown any remorse and had been very arrogant from the moment she was arrested. Ramandeep deserved the punishment because she drugged her husband and children so that she could kill her husband. Who does that kind of thing? A psychopath, that's who. A woman in person like Ramandeep, it seems, who now looks set to pay the ultimate price for her crimes.